Oh, before I go outside, this video I'm doing right now has to be one of the hardest, heart-wrenching videos I've ever done in my life. It's homeless people, but this has really woken me up, where you're staring at them because you're editing and you're really focused on their faces and the whites of their eyes. That's when it hits you, when you see the whites of their eyes. So hats off to Coralie and Tyson. You guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate the opportunity to spread the word and get the message out there. So
and they're happy.
Mhm.
Now
Yeah.
start stripping our stuff away, and we'd have whiners and complainers like, "Hey, yeah,
Oh,
turn, I lost
because
my
we
iPhone."
already have whiners and complainers, and we have so much. We're so blessed, and it's
Yeah,
sad that people don't even know how blessed they really are.
yeah. There's a guy named Jim Brown of TEDx, which is a form of TED Talks, and he did a little study as to homelessness, and it led him into poverty, right, which is what we're talking about. And he found it was a vicious cycle.
There's a cycle of poverty that has trapped Alabama families, actually entire communities, for generations. It goes like this. You start with no money, which leads to no education, which then leads to no jobs, which then leads to no money.
So he said, what you have to do is reverse it. How do you reverse it?
What we know, again, from systems theory about self-reinforcing cycles is that if you can reverse any element in the cycle, the entire cycle reverses direction and actually starts to propel itself upward instead of downward. Poverty is created not by poor people, but by their circumstances. Change their circumstances, and poverty disappears quickly. Why not give ownership in exchange for work? It's just as important, it's just as critical to a business, isn't it? I mean, you can't run a business without work. Well, the good news is there is a form of business that provides ownership in exchange for work. It's called a worker-owned cooperative. It's a business entity that's owned and controlled by its workers. Decisions are made democratically, usually one person, one vote. Now, I'm proposing worker-owned cooperatives as a pathway to business ownership and a pathway out of poverty.
And that leads into the Netherlands. This young fella, now on the video I'm going to show, this guy's name is Bas Timmer. His story is he's got a couple of buddies. Their dad hit hard times in Holland there, and he ended up homeless, and he died due to hypothermia on the street. And he thought, this is wrong. Why don't people care? So he took it up amongst himself, and he started gathering sleeping bags. He turned that into a form of clothing, and he put sleeves onto them, and it was like a pair of pants, and it was all one piece. He said, how about if I show you how to make them? And
Wow.
he now runs a small factory, not employing, they employ themselves, because what they do is they do an ownership cooperative.
Okay.
And a co-op is a gathering of individuals that have special traits. It turned out
Right.
every one of them learned how to sew. Well, that was great. They interviewed these guys, as you'll see in the video, and the feeling they get, and they show up every single day, and then they have a team of people gathering, these sleeping bags.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then they bring them, and then they have the homeless people that are no longer homeless now, because what they've done, how did they make money out of it? They went and auctioned them off. They went onto the streets and sold them to the, to organizations, and then they sold them. And it turned into a big thing. It started small. It didn't happen overnight, but it started from making one.
That's such a good idea. And you know what? I've encountered so many amazing, incredible artists while I've been out working with the homeless, and like I've actually paid them money for certain art pieces. Like I have
That's nice.
an art piece in my room that was done up by a homeless guy, and you never know. Like everyone has a story, and I really hate when people kind of judge or condemn homeless people or paint them all with the same brush, because everyone is individual. Everyone has their own story, their reason why they're on the streets, and their unique gifts that they can bring to this world. And that actually reminds me of another quote that I made, which was, we are all gifted, we just need to be lifted. So with that, it's like every one of us has unique gifts inside of us, but sometimes we just need to be inspired. We need to be encouraged to kind of bring them forth into the world.
Indoor gardening, plastic bags are cheap. You start with a small pot and seed, learn how to germinate a seed, which is just toilet paper and water, get it
Mhm.
rooted, put it in a pot, let it break the ground, but keep watering it. You're nurturing it. That gives them ownership of that growth, and they'll
Mhm.
name it. You watch. People are funny. They name plants,
Yeah.
right? And
I
then
named
after,
my first plant I bought, I named. And then my friend killed it. I had her plant sitting it and she killed it.
no,
Yeah.
hunt that person down. How dare they?
Yeah.
So yeah, so you just take plastic and you wrap it around. Once it gets big, you got an indoor greenhouse and you start
Mhm.
your own little community gardening. You don't need land. You just need pots and soil, right?
Right.
There's places on the outskirts of the city, I'm sure you can dig up soil. They're not going to
Mhm.
give you a hard time, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely. And one small thought that also comes to mind is like maybe making bracelets or wristbands, right? And they can do beadwork, and then we could actually take these wristbands and bracelets and sell them, right? And people
yeah,
could like kind of like auction it off, but I guess you could charge like a flat rate or whatever the case is. But
yeah,
and that's just another example because I mean they have time on their hands, right? Like
right.
and then it's actually therapeutic sometimes to be doing something like beadwork, especially if you have mental health issues and like maybe anxiety. It might actually help with the kind of not treating that, but just taking some of the symptoms and minimizing them.
Oh yeah. And then on that little bracelet, get a little leather strap. And the person who made it writes their name on there.
Yeah.
Your new friend. And every time they look at it, they think, oh, this is my new friend. They made this with their own hands.
Yeah. This man actually inspired me to start doing more humanitarian work. Do you want to?
Excellent. Thank you for doing what you did there. That's very kind of you. That tells a lot about your personality, your inner self. That's great. Why did you do
Yeah,
that?
I mean, well, I don't know if it's like nature or nurture, right? Like, so I was actually born in Trinidad and Tobago.
Really?
It's a little island off the coast of Venezuela, right? And
Okay.
my dad actually owned a large factory out there making car parts, like for like cylinders and things like that for like Toyota and Honda.
Oh yeah.
And so what I'm trying to get at is we were well off, right? Like very well off. And so we had servants, things like that. And I got to see how my dad treated them, right? And I remember how, you know, he had a driver and things like that. And his name was Katang, and he wasn't very bright, but how he treated my dad, he was always so generous and kind towards my dad. And my dad would, you know, and so when we would drive around, he told me about my dad, you know, like your dad's a very good man. And I remember Christmas time, you know, he would do a lot for people, for his factory workers, right?
Right.
And it was how I saw him interact with them, right? That I kind of saw it. So I don't know if it's nature or nurture, because my dad and my grandfather and everybody before that were humanitarians, right? Wrote books even for how to end slavery, things like that, right? In Barbados.
Oh, that's
right?
great.
So,
yeah.
and so, you know, that's why I don't know if it's nature nurture, but either way, I kind of follow the same path, and it's just something inside of me, I guess. Like I'll go somewhere and I'll see human suffering, and it's like, okay, well, you know, I do so much work to help myself. You know, I can work really hard to buy myself a house and buy myself a car, you know, buy myself all these things, but like, can I use my intelligence to help somebody else? Could I use my intelligence to, you know, change the society, or, you know what I mean? Do something more than myself, right? And I think that's where I enjoy it. Like a true humanitarian, I feel, will enjoy the challenge, right?
Yeah.
And so where it was for me was in the shape and form of helping people in third world countries. Okay, well, if someone has a fentanyl addiction, well, $1 billion couldn't save them, right? And
Correct.
so mental health is a number one issue here. People would challenge me. They'd be like, well, you know, why are you doing so much work overseas? You know, you're constantly going 2-3 times a year overseas and building homes and schools, medical clinics. Well, why don't you stop? Why don't you do something here? And I used to get angry and upset, right? I felt like the people that were saying that weren't even doing anything anyways. You know how some people will just like to judge you without even acknowledging for the work that you're doing. And these people weren't even doing anything anyways. And so, you know, a lot of times I humble myself in those situations though, right? Okay, why are people constantly saying this? Maybe there's something I can do here. And so I took a step back and I humbled myself and I looked at it a little further, and I turned on the radio and I heard that there's a crystal meth epidemic going on in high schools, right? Like high school kids. And that, for me, marijuana was the biggest, you know, cocaine, maybe not even, right? Like, and so I was like, how the hell did this happen? Right? Like, you know, how are kids enjoying that kind of shit? Like, you know, that kind of crap. That's insane. Right. So that, I think, was the first step to me kind of looking at this a little further and seeing, well, how am I supposed to get involved in this? And you know what? I didn't even want to, but I can tell you this, I think there's a balance in fate where you know, you don't have control over fate. Things are going to happen in your life, and control of your destiny, right? I think there's a balance and a yin and a yang in the two, right? Mm-hmm. Because I was not walking a certain path, and I think that the powers to be wanted me to start somewhere. And maybe I saw the writings on the wall. Maybe I heard the voices people telling me. But I fought against it, right? And it kind of pushed me to that direction. And so I think there's some people that are just meant for this. And, you know, I've still got some things I need to learn myself, right? But either way, Cora is definitely, you know, a rock in my corner, right? And I think she's trying to kind of turn the switch on in me to kind of get that old humanitarian. So just so you know, I helped, you know, grow an organization called Live Different.
Live Different. Is there a website at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, you know, we would basically attract the youth of Canada to come with us to third world countries and build homes and schools and medical clinics. And so what I did was I looked at the format of them, and I helped them challenge the change in the sense of, you know, attracting youth, creating school programs, but also going and attracting the private sector, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you want to have a vacation and stay in a resort, that's great. But let's say you don't need a tan like me. Let's say you want to help somebody, right?
Yeah.
Well, during the day you can go and build a home. And so people don't know how to get to those resources, right? Okay, well, I'm not a Christian and I don't do the Habitat for Humanity thing, right? And so this is just, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in. It's just like, you want to go on a vacation, have some fun, but maybe help somebody else. This is what that is, right? Yeah. But if you're a student and you want some experience, you want to be a doctor, okay, well, come do the internship program. And now you can go back to your faculty and have some experience in your belt, right? Spend a summer doing this. WestJet endorsed the organization with me.
Really?
And so
WestJet.
If you fly WestJet, you'll see us building homes and stuff with WestJet pilots and stuff, right? So,
how cool is that? Wow, you've done a lot of work. Holy smokes!
Well, I'm not a Canadian athlete or anything. I can't run knees to chest, right?
But you're flying and you're a superhero without a cape. See, you fall under that umbrella now. Hey, so we're gonna do that. Heroes without capes. Hey, you know, I'm gonna start that. That's gonna be my little thing. The work you're doing is, it's showing, obviously, and hopefully this can help and bring some positive attention your way. So, okay.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
guys, it was great having you aboard. Thank you very much. Keep the work going. It's making a difference, really is.